In this video, I want to talk to you about the vertical project finance spreadsheet layout. Today, I want to talk to you about an alternative way to design your spreadsheets. However, before we get into the topic, for those of you who are new here, hi, welcome. My name is Hedieh. I made financial modeling my profession as well as my passion. And I post regularly, most of the time once a week. So if you're interested, please consider subscribing to my channel. Okay, what does it mean to have a structured financial model? Having a structured financial model just means to apply a set of rules and to stick to them, meaning to apply them consistently throughout your financial model. That's why I say it is very important that before you start building a financial model, you just spend some time thinking about the design and how you want to just basically structure your financial model. And of course, discuss it with your team, with your supervisor, before you get into the building stage of your financial model. I have a course actually on how to structure and design spreadsheets for project finance deals. You can find out more about it at courses.phoenixmode.com. So today, as I told you, I'm going to talk to you about the different layouts and the alternative way that I experienced and I experimented this week. So first of all, let's also talk about why it is important to have these structures and rules in your financial model. First of all, it just, makes your model more user-friendly, and because, financial model is a tool that is used by different stakeholders. So you should make sure that the financial model can communicate well with the users. So having this set of standards, meaning flexible, transparency, flexibility, and, all sort of different standards, make sure that the models are user-friendly. And second of all, it's easier to maintain because, if you are building the model, you should always consider that you might change the position, or you might just, just win a lottery and, go and, live in an island. So the other person who's going to come and, take over your financial model needs to basically be easily take over the model. And having these standards make it easier to maintain the model and to also adopt a model. The other basically advantage of having structures and standards model is that, the models, of course, will be less prone to errors. And we know that, everybody complains that, models are prone to errors. However, when you have this set of standards, it's going to be very much, the risk of having errors will reduce basically significantly. Yes, it is true. There are a set of rules in both financial modeling and in design. A standard or structured financial model should be transparent, structured, flexible, and simple. And there are also rules in design, and the basic rules of designs are contrast, repetition, alignments, and proximity. So you need to learn all these rules, and you basically, after you learn these rules, you can just be creative while playing and juggling with these rules. And that's what we want to do today in our financial model. We're going to first look at a typical way of designing spreadsheets, which is horizontal. A horizontal layout of a financial model. Basically, I'm going to show you here in this extract. In a horizontal spreadsheet design layout, we are working with columns. So every column has its own specific purpose. And for example, in this snapshot, we see that the column E is dedicated for labels. And then we have column H, which is for the sum total. We have column F, which is for constant. And we have column G, which is for basically units. And we're going to apply this consistently across all our worksheet in the financial model, at least the calculation sheet. We can have a different design in our input sheet and in our results or summary sheets or dashboard sheet. However, when it comes to calculation sheet, we need to maintain the same exact layout across all calculation sheets. Okay, so once you decide on the column structure, you're going to stick to it throughout your financial model. That's what we call a horizontal layout. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a timeline, or what we call a time ruler, and the time ruler is in a single row. Okay, so all the worksheet within our financial model has this time ruler, okay, in a single row. So different periods of the models are in columns. Okay, now we're going to look at an alternative way of building models, which is basically vertical spreadsheet design layout. In the vertical spreadsheet design layout, we will have one column dedicated to our time ruler. Remember, in the horizontal one, we had the time ruler on the head of the spreadsheet, in one row. In this vertical layout, we're going to have one column, and we're going to have the timeline or the time ruler within one column in our spreadsheet. Then we're going to basically have our data or our cash flows in the different columns within the spreadsheet. The way I designed it, I basically have these from row 6 to 13. You see here, I dedicated those rows to the inputs that I am using for these calculations. And at the bottom, I also specify the section for all the checks or summary metrics that I want to calculate. Okay, so that's the basically alternative way of designing the spreadsheet that I want to present to you today. And I'm going to take you through a spreadsheet where I have both of these structures. However, what are the benefits of designing your spreadsheet in a vertical design layout? So first of all, when I started building one myself, I realized that, I've been so much used to building horizontal models that it was very difficult for me. It was challenging for my brain, to maybe even with the shortcuts and with everything to build a vertical model. And I found it challenging, but, I like the end result. Second of all, we see more and more people integrating their Excel data with Power BI and with other applications. And this table format that we have in the vertical design layout is going to make it easier to basically export your data from Excel to Power BI or other applications. And the other one, the last one that I figured out is basically it's going to be easier to print. Most of the time I just copy paste data from my spreadsheet into an email or into a project document. And when you have this horizontal basically layout, especially with the financial statements, when you have 30 years, 25 years of data, it's going to be very difficult to print it out and to make sure that, it's basically falls in the frame. So with the vertical one, I found it to be easier to print the spreadsheet as well. Okay, so that's all about the theory. Now let's have a look at a financial model. Okay, so now let's get into the financial model. This is a financial model I have. First, I'm going to show you the horizontal design layout. So we have a set of inputs here, and it's a fairly simple model. The purpose of this model is just to show you the difference between these two design layouts. So I have a guide sheet here for the horizontal where I tell you exactly how you can use the model and the column structure, the same thing that we just discussed in the slides. And everything that is related to the model functionality. And I also have an assumption book here where I just basically summarize the key assumptions and outputs of the model. And I have a template for it as well. If you're interested, you can go and check it out. I'm going to put the link down below. Okay, then we have a table of content, and we have the master sheet. This is for myself. When I want to create a new sheet, I'm just going to basically create a copy of this one and start building a new and working on a new worksheet. So the timeline in the horizontal model, as you see, we have on top, we have the timeline, which is basically this model starts in January, and we have construction, and then we have operation until we have a shutdown, and the model is on quarterly basis. And as you can see here, these are the different flags for basically, and all the flags and calculations are in rows, and all the periodic ones are in columns. We have then, CapEx, and as you can see, once I have this format for my columns, the same thing, I have it across all worksheets in the model. And this is a modular model, meaning that, the different calculations blocks are broken down into different worksheets. I find that, when you have a horizontal layout, you can basically do, especially if your model is simple, you can do a one-pager, model, meaning that you put your inputs in one section, the calculation and the results, and within one single worksheet within your model. If your model is simple, and even if it is not simple, you can easily do it. However, when it comes to vertical, I will show you that it's preferable to have basically a modular model. So eventually we have the financial statements, we have a cash flow waterfall. So if you want to see how the revenues or the cash, we need to go from left to right and see how, the revenues are projected and the different basically cash flow statement. And we have a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. And of course, a set of checks within the model. And then we summarize everything into one summary sheet when we're going to report the main assumptions and results. And we're going to also put a summary financial statement here and some charts, dynamic charts, or different charts that are basically important in this project. So that's a horizontal layout. Now let's have a look at a vertical layout. Okay, so I'm using the same input sheet, so it's the same input sheet, but now I'm going to structure it in basically in vertical layout. So I have again a guide sheet, which is basically the same thing, but this time explaining the layout of a vertical model. And we have a master sheet. As you can see here, the master sheet is different now. We have the timeline, which is in this column, and the different data or the different calculations are within these different columns. For example, the timeline that you remember we have seen in the vertical, in the horizontal layout, you have seen it. Now you see that here it's different. You have the timeline here, and this is the one that is frozen, and it's the same across all worksheet in the model. As you can see, if I navigate in different worksheet, that one, these from column A to D, they are exactly the same across all worksheet. And then I have the units of each item here in this line 17, which, for example, I have construction period flag. So it's a flag. This one is a counter, this is a percentage, and this is basically a dollar value, which is the CapEx profile. And so the same thing we do for financing, for different modules, debt, equity, operation, which means the revenue and OPEX. And then we have a cash flow waterfall, we have our P&L, and we have our balance sheet. And then we have a set of checks as well in the model. So as I told you here in this layout, what I do here is in this one, because this is what I needed to come up with the equity drawdown. So I import it from the input sheet here so that somebody, when they want to audit the model and check the formulas, they know exactly how they are calculated instead of going from one worksheet to another, trace, the formulas. They know exactly, okay, so this is from input and this is linked here. And the same thing for this one, or this one is used for the operating flag. Okay, and then in this section of the worksheet, I put all the, for example, I need to have a check for the sources and uses that they match. And I also want to check that the gearing, the maximum gearing of 70% is basically maintained in this model. So I put all my checks here at the bottom. And of course, I summarize them all in one worksheet, and I will create a master check that I'm going to report on top of each worksheet as well. Basically, we have this in the horizontal as well. In the horizontal, we have it on the top of each worksheet. We report it. So we do the same thing here, and we report it on top of each worksheet. Okay, so that's it. Basically, that's the difference between the two. To be honest with you, I started liking this vertical design layout, and I don't know if I want to, maybe I will see if I can do it for one of my real projects just to test it. But I would really love to know your idea and what you think about this. Have you ever done it? Maybe you have maybe tested it already. So let me know in the comments. And I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you and bye. if you want to learn how to build better financial models, check out my online course on financial model spreadsheet design at courses.phoenixmode.com.